I am.
Kyle's going first. Okay. Buttholes.
See, we know what's up.
All right. This week in Blizz for Monday, November 26th. Dear God, December's almost here. Episode 34 going live in 3, 2, 1. This Week in Blizz is proudly sponsored by DoghouseSystems.com. If you use the code TWIB at checkout, that's TWIB, you will get double memory on your next Doghouse system. We thank DoghouseSystems.com for their support of This Week in Blizz. And also TweakedAudio.com. Go to TweakedAudio.com for high-performance, noise-reducing earbuds. Use our code TWIB to get 30% off plus free shipping on your next order, and support This Week in Blizz in the process.
Armed and ready. Who wants some? This week in Blizz.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 34 of This Week in Blizz. I'm Garrett Weinzierl,
I'm Kyle Ferguson.
And I'm Ben Sveifel.
and this is the show keeping you up to date on the worlds of Blizzard Entertainment. Everyone have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it did. It's good.
Glad to hear.
It was
glad to
nice.
hear. Kyle, it's a good time?
Yeah, took the time to wipe my gaming computer clean it out, full of dust. I don't know if like liquid computers get this much dust, or if that's the reason they are liquid, or you like trade out the dust. But either way, there was too much dust in my computer.
You mean liquid coolers, or there are computers made of liquid?
Really?
I do like the notion of computers made of liquid. That sounds very nanotechnology somehow.
That would be nice. Like,
Yeah.
just you go out and buy a super soaker, and all of a sudden it's an upgrade for your computer.
But either way, it needs a filtering system of some kind. I mean, something needs to move through it, a little poop jar or something at the bottom. It's ridiculous, the amount of dust that builds inside these machines.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. My chassis has like this really fine cloth that is in between all of the vents on the intake and the outtake and all that stuff, and it makes cleanup a breeze. The inside hardly ever gets any dust whatsoever.
Oh, like little cleaning
the
pads
lint-
or something.
It's like a lint trap on a jar.
Pretty much. I know Mike's computer has it too. All of my buddies who have like high-end gaming chassis, they kind of have those. I know there's not a lot out there with this. I helped build a computer for my brother. His does not have that. But hey, quick plug for Doghouse. The chassis they use are the bomb. Because I love it. It's very dust-free. It's wonderful. So, very cool stuff. And hey, live crowd, all the few of you that are here, if you are looking for a computer, Doghouse Systems Cyber Monday deals are still going on. But that does not help the podcast listeners, because this is going up on Tuesday. So,
Yep.
sorry guys. Hope you got it while the getting's good. Anyways, let's get into this week's news with World of Warcraft. Literal breaking news. It busted through my wall like the Kool-Aid Man, screaming, "Oh yeah!" And I said, "Oh no, I'm not ready. I didn't get that far in the Rathian quest line. Don't come yet." If you're not catching all of these inside jokes, then you're not aware that patch 5.1 drops tomorrow. Now, we got a lot of hints this week from Blue Posts and Blizzard devs on Twitter. People asking, hey, it's officially been 2 months since Mists of Pandaria launched, and all the Rathian questline said the fleet will arrive in 2 months. Are you going to hit your mark? And everyone's like, it's going to be close, but it's probably not going to be right on the nose. And then they're like, bam, we lied. It's coming right on time.
Yeah.
Both of you, Kyle, Ben, who is this Blizzard, and what did they do with the real one?
They didn't write it on the box, so they learned their lesson.
Yes.
Wonderful. So,
Stuff written on the box is a sort of harbinger of things never to come.
yeah, do you think that's what happened? Do you think to keep things coming out at a decent speed in Mists of Pandaria, that they stumbled back upon things like the Path of the Titans and the Dance Studio, and were like, let's sacrifice these to the Blizzard gods so that we can get content out at a timely fashion during Pandaria?
I don't know. I think they've stopped over-promising. Does that make sense? Like they've consistently overpromised for basically everything, or at least talk about something and then people take it at face value and go, "Oh yeah, that." So obviously we're going to get new dwarf models next patch, and that's not what they said, But
Yeah,
that's
certainly.
the
I
way
mean,
it's interpreted.
Yeah.
it's more than understandable how if you were on the development team of these games, you might get a little excited. If someone asks you what's coming, you'd say, "Well, I can't contain myself. Here it is," and everyone takes it as fact.
That's a good point, too.
I think that over the past few years, they've managed to really start controlling their message. With a big, company like that with very valuable intellectual properties, I don't think they mess around, and they've started consolidating their messaging. Like, basically, it feels like, I'm not really sure that this is just my imagination, but previously it's been very scattered. Right. I mean, you have lots of different spokespeople that say lots of different things, and sometimes it's conflicting, and then sometimes it doesn't matter. And you have, developers on the forums, and frequently, or more recently, over the past year or so, I've noticed that the message has been honed. Like frequently, it's rare to see an opinion, sort of an official opinion from a Blizzard personality that's conflicting with the general message, right? I mean,
Well, it's also moved. You have Ghostcrawler, who's on Twitter now, and he's just throwing out responses to damn near everyone who tweets at him.
exactly. But I mean, the way he's framing stuff is in a much more speculative manner, and
Right.
people aren't taking it as seriously as a blue post on a forum, for instance.
Right, and that's kind of why he moved it to his Twitter. He's like, hey, I would like to kind of speak freely here, and it's not written in stone.
Right. And also, I mean, Twitter is simply not a very good venue to argue back. It's very easy to ignore trolls that are constantly hammering at you, whereas
Right.
on a forum, the way the comments are threaded, it's almost impossible to do that. So
Yeah.
it's a much more appropriate sort of venue for that kind of thing.
Yeah. And the character limit makes it casual by design.
Exactly. You can't go into, a 10,000 word thesis on why exactly
Ghostcrawler,
this...
here's my novel on why you killed World of Warcraft.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Why you're destroying gaming, It's
Yeah.
kind of...
How do they even find time to do these? Like, they must be writing these reactions as they are reacting to it, which is the worst thing you could possibly do to form an opinion.
I don't think that's what they're doing, because I'm sure if that was the case, there would be a lot more, R-rated Blizzard responses. You effing piece of S! I'm gonna come down to where you live because I have your account information, and I'm gonna beat you silly.
Oh, okay.
No,
Come on,
He's
go
talking about the responses by.
Oh, you're talking about the trolls. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yes, of course.
All right, I understand. But yeah, the point of all of this random chatter, we got a little away from ourselves, is holy crap, Blizzard's they're rolling stuff out at a really good clip. So yeah, we're getting patch 5.1 tomorrow. And hey, if you're listening to this live, or even tomorrow on Tuesday when this show episode goes up on the podcast version, make sure you go over to MMO Champion and check it out, because they've got a great post regarding 5.1, and it's being updated as we speak. They keep adding stuff to it, and I'm sure there'll be even more stuff added tomorrow once they get in there and see exactly what's going on. And I believe their WoW DB, the WoW database, also now has item upgrade support, because tomorrow one of the things that's going live is item upgrades. So you can go over there and you can check the page of any item, and you can see what it'll be, what it'll be upgraded to, what it costs, what the stats look like, all that good jazz. So good on them. They freaking do some crazy stuff over there.
Yep. We would be so screwed without that.
Oh yeah, no, dude, that is one of my favorite damn between that and Team Liquid, I would have nothing to read.
Nope.
Yeah. Novels be damned. Who needs to read books?
Sure. Thanks to everybody else for doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
We'll just sit here and analyze whatever comes in.
Yeah, it's
We're worse than TV pundits. It's great.
worse than see. Thank you. Now I'm gonna just go hang myself, I guess. Anyways, what we are getting tomorrow, the things you can expect, we more or less talked about at length in previous episodes. We're getting item upgrades. There'll be a new ethereal merchant that can be found next to all of the current ethereal merchants, your void storage, your reforging, transmog, etc. Actually, I think that's it, those three. We're getting the Rathian questline updated. I do not have all my sigils, because our raid is only one night a week and slow.
Yes.
And only 2 hours one night a week, which is
Very, very slow.
not long enough, in my opinion. That's a discussion.
You're the
for
one who
another day.
insisted on that.
I insisted on a 3 hour, and I thought that's what we agreed on.
Oh, well. It's longer than 2 hours. We usually go 2.5.
We usually go like 1:45 because someone always like,
No.
guys, I gotta go. Someone always cuts out like 15 minutes early every week. So, anyways,
Yes, it's all their concentration.
yeah, we've got new reputations. We got the Alliance, the Operation Shield Wall, and for Horde, the Dominance Offensive. This is going to be tied in with all those new dailies that are being added.
Hooray.
Which means I may finally do a daily again, because I've sworn them off since Halo 4 came out. I was just like, I'm done with dailies. I'm gonna go shoot people in the head. The Brawlers Guild, and of course new achievements tied into stuff like the Brawlers Guild and the new reputation grinds that we have being added. We've got official patch notes up already, so you can go check that out. Read all of the really nitpicky bug fixes and all that jazz. There's also some fixes being added into the pet battle system, which is still continuing to suck my roommate's soul away. I'm so very, very afraid of that. I still haven't tried it. But you guys, got into it at all?
No, I didn't love it, to be honest. I wonder if these changes will make... I thought I would be very into it, but I don't... It's just not for me. It's... I don't know. I don't like the way it plays, and it's not necessarily what I consider to be fun gameplay.
Fair enough.
Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I haven't done enough of it.
Well,
I just
that
got
is-
kind of bored and went on.
That is kind of the beauty of Warcraft, is they have very deep, very fleshed out systems, and you can completely ignore a large majority of them and still get a ton of enjoyment and a lot of playtime out of the game.
Oh, yeah. I totally pick and choose what I do in the game. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
It seems so frightening coming from my old perspective of raiding, where if you did not show up with everything done, you were sucking, dragging everyone else down. So the idea that there's a farm and pets to battle and archaeology that I still never touched is frightening to me.
Well, you're not missing much on archaeology. It is pretty damn boring.
Well, I mean, okay, like to clarify, they've done a very, very good job of limiting the amount of things that you need to do that are required for you to, let's say, perform properly.
Right.
So,
Sure, many
like,
avenues to achieve the goal.
sort of, yeah, but like even like you could, if you wanted to, spend slightly more gold than the average person, you could just skip farming completely. You could just buy your food off the auction house. Just do that. Like, there's no reason to actually have the farm. It's fun and it's a great source of income and that kind of thing. But there's no reason you have to do it. I mean, you don't even have to do, with the way LFR works now, you don't even have to do the dailies, really. I mean, if you want to really be at the peak and have, access to the most gear amount possible, then yeah, that's probably a smart idea. But I mean, that's not that big of a investment, really.
Right. Like me, I got just far enough to get my serpent, which was my big goal, and then to get a few epics so that I wouldn't be a complete just trash tank going into the ring with you guys. But since then, I'm like, okay, I've got enough gear for the level that we're at. I'm done with dailies.
Exactly.
Sitting outside the progression here, the Brawlers Guild is what makes me most excited about this patch, because that kind of hides the future of scenarios and single player content and the contest and everything else. A lot could come out of that.
Yeah.
It's so damn unique. I mean, it is unlike anything that's been in the game so far. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm honestly, oddly enough, I just, been talking about how much I'm kind of done with dailies. I'm really excited for the dailies being added from a lore aspect. I'm really stoked to see this new story unfold, or the new part of this story unfold. Obviously, we're already knee deep in Pandaria, but yeah, that's my favorite part of my favorite thing about Warcraft is Horde versus Alliance.
Yeah,
that sounds just vile. Oh, I just couldn't get the Pandaria off my boots.
It's in my raccoon wounds.
But I agree completely. Like, I haven't really touched a daily in a long time, but I'm excited for the new ones for some reason. Like, I'm certainly going to do them all, it's that kind of thing.
Well, you and
I'm burnt out on the current ones because I've just done the same ones so many times.
Well, I still am of the belief that they made the Golden Lotus rep too grindy.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't care. They were like, well, you don't do the same daily every day. I don't care. There's not enough variety, and it just takes too damn long.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest complaint of this expansion so far, and it's a minor one. Because had you come and talked to me during
Right,
Cataclysm,
I think the Golden Lotus was overtuned.
yeah,
Just in the sheer amount of time investment required to get there, to get to the other stuff. In fact, it burnt me out so much on the Golden Lotus stuff that I haven't had a real interest. And just, oh my god, have you done the Shadowpan ones?
yes,
Right, they're brutal.
they're absolutely if you're not doing it with someone else,
Right, and
Done.
even then it's hard,
Don't
right?
care.
I mean, it's just like,
Yep.
so it's tedious and it's really hard.
Kyle's got that I'm still leveling smile. He's like, Psh, you guys, I don't care. I'm frolicking through a field, killing boars and collecting ears. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somehow only every fifth boar actually has an ear.
Hey, those boars with their ears have nothing on mountain blood or mountain lion blood.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. Like the ones that don't have blood or livers.
Yeah.
If I'm killing them, that is a friggin' mercy killing, man. They've got no organs. They're just walking around tormented. So
I have noticed they've done a much better job of cutting that stuff out. Like I haven't come across any of the ones in the actual mists leveling area where I've discovered like, hey, there's apparently 6 dozen boars with no legs. Like it's
there was one in the really early on in the Jade Forest. I think where you had to kill crocodiles or something. But I was having a severe issue, and I think it was like legs or something. And I was like, I'm looking at these crocodiles. They got 6 legs. What's going on here? But nonetheless, again, minor.
right, but
minor
it's
complaints.
comparatively rare compared to a lot of the other stuff where it's like pretty obvious that it somehow doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. So yeah, Ben, are you to the point where you can move on with the Rathian quest line?
No. I need a bunch more sigils.
I remember. I think I was talking to you a few weeks ago. You said you were closer than you expected.
Yeah, because I don't know. I got lucky in my Heart of Fear LFRs, I guess. I need a few more things here and there. But the thing is, like, once I get the gem or whatever, as far as I can tell, I still need a weapon off of the guy in Terrace at the Endless Spring, I want to say, like, for it to even be useful. So it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, moving on. There's been a big sort of Blizzard is doing something about people exploiting arenas, and they've hit hard to all the people that were win trading and suspected of being win trading. I've heard that there's a lot of people complaining about the fact that they haven't done anything wrong and have somehow been affected by this. But
oh, we're fixing the system. How dare you?
Yeah, right.
Wait, so win training? This is basically where you know who you're fighting against and they lose on purpose?
I guess so. Yeah. So it's like people repeatedly losing against each other and that kind of thing. To somehow boost up their stats. So a whole bunch of things have happened. They've deleted arena teams. They've reset characters' MMRs to 1500. They removed all conquest gear from people that have been exploiting the system. All the conquest earned tally is reset, as well as the honor and conquest points removed. All arena achievements that have been earned since the beginning of Mists of Pandaria have been removed, and all the people involved have gotten a 3-day suspension. So it's very I don't know. I think that's pretty severe.
Yeah, they take this stuff seriously.
Yep. And I kind of approve of this, but it sounds like people have inadvertently been affected by the win trading, if that makes sense, and have somehow gotten their stats artificially boosted without really any serious negative behavior on their part. They're sort of taking advantage of other people doing stuff, but without actively doing any of it themselves. And they've been affected by it too. But I mean, it's really hard, especially when most of these rebuttals are just forum posts going, "Hey, why did you delete my stuff?" when it's clear the entire context isn't there.
Yeah. Indeed. So, I mean, it could be way worse. I mean, we've seen in the past them just, like, swinging a ban hammer like crazy, so at least these people haven't been completely kicked from the game.
Yeah.
Well, it's reversible, too, which is...
Right. And I mean, in the past, I mean, if you plead your case to Blizzard customer service and you can prove, look, I'm not an a-hole, they're usually pretty good about, righting their own wrongs.
Yeah, or draw them a unicorn.
That too, dude.
Yes.
Blizzard CS is famous for just epic responses to their customers.
Well, as of Thursday, many guilds had cleared the 3 of the 4 bosses in Li Shi on Heroic, but the Shaw of Fear has finally fallen to Paragon and Method.
Yep.
As of now, actually, it's still only Paragon and Method that have killed Shaw of Fear. This is in Terrace of the Endless Springs. So that opened up just this week, as far as I know. And so they've finally killed it now.
Now it was looking like Blood Legion was going to be the first, because they were the world first for the second and third bosses, correct?
That could be.
I believe that was the case, which is...
Yeah, there's still only 3 or 4, though. So clearly they've hit a roadblock.
Yeah. I bet someone in that raid, if not multiple people, are very angry right now.
Right. I mean, like, the thing is, you take these top guilds. I mean, you've got, like Vodka, Blood Legion, Method, and Paragon. And a few other ones are sort of, sneaking their way in there occasionally. Like, Envy has been doing really well. Stars from China is always, doing very well. But there's a couple of, like, Russian guilds and stuff. But I think so much of it is not necessarily like, oh, we're more skilled than you, but they figure out a strategy, or they have a slightly more optimal raid comp, or like they've just figured it out sooner. And that's why it sort of alternates so much about who really, makes top progress. Just because circumstances, it really, changes from moment to moment.
Yeah, indeed. But hey, man, we're right on their heels. We'll be there.
Yeah, totally.
We'll be there really soon.
Yeah, don't even.
Next expansion, maybe, if we're lucky.
Sadly, it's still a little too early to get the exact videos of the kill, but it looked like a really sweet boss.
Yeah, apparently it was intense from what I've read, at least from the PTR stuff that I was reading and like that kind of thing. It was, interesting. There's some very interesting tank mechanics and stuff involved.
Oh boy.
No, oh yeah.
I love interesting tank mechanics.
Yeah. It's so boring. We never do anything. What do you mean I have to do something?
I like Oathmaster in the chat room. Versus the world first on Garage. Calling it. Yeah. You keep calling it Oathmaster. You'll be calling it for a while. Anyways, that does it for this week's World of Warcraft news. Let's talk some StarCraft. The Call to Action balance testing map went live on Tuesday. Now this is with the previously discussed changes of making psionic units immune to fungals and hunter-seeker missiles on Ravens no longer requiring an upgrade. For clarification from last week, the thread on TeamLiquid.net notes which units are psionic, and those are Sentry, High Templar, Dark Templar, Archon, Warp Prism, Mothership, Ghost, Queen, and Infestor.
So Protoss.
Yeah. This is a massive buffed Protoss.
This list was so much bigger than I thought.
Agreed. I was like, are all the we were having this discussion either on this show last week or was it Stark? I don't remember. But we're like, what Templars are or not? I guess the easy answer, all of them. All the Templars and everything made from Templars are psionic.
You know what kills me? Is what? Warp Prism. Warp Prism harassment so much more powerful if they've gone Infestor tech.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how do you kill Warp Prism as Zerg, right? You fungal it and you throw up a couple of Infested Terrans, and that's it. That's the end of Warp Prism harass for the rest of the game.
Yep.
So now...
Or you have Feudalists.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you're in the mid-game, you're basically either going Infestor or Mutatech, right? You're not doing both. That's pretty rare, right?
It's a little gas intensive.
Right. Or, eventually you'll get up to, Hive Tech and get... Corruptors, but it's unlikely that you'll get Infestors and Mutas in the same game, at least en masse.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that the Hunter-Seeker missiles can no longer target psionic either, as far as I've gathered.
No. It's the change to that is that Hunter-Seeker missiles no longer require an upgrade. It's completely removed from the psionic thing.
Oh, okay. So this is a giant ass buff to ravens. Okay.
Yes, it's a massive
All right.
Raven buff because we there's just zero Raven use for the most part.
That's not
Yeah, I
entirely
mean-
true, but not nearly as much as something like, let's say, a High Templar.
Absolutely.
Not nearly as much as something actually useful.
This is
So-
like Storm for Terrans.
Mm-hmm.
Except that they get Kaidaran Amulet too.
Yeah,
Because
I
it's
guess,
a
yeah,
call
you're
to
absolutely
action,
right.
but because it's a call to action map, this has some interesting quirks to it. It is a arcade map right now. You load it up. If there's someone to play with, it just grabs them and you go. There's no sort of ranking system at all. The guy I ended up playing against this apparently was his first game. He
Never.
didn't wall off. Yeah, he didn't wall off correctly. Then
So
I
for
watched
his-
him.
For his first game, he did a call to action balance testing map.
I get maybe he thought that's where the game was. I don't know because literally I watched him with my Overlord hanging out over his Terran base, and I watched him build a Marine, then a Reaper, then a Marauder, and then start a factory. Like I was like, oh my god, this poor guy. Oh, so I didn't want to make him wait forever, so I made two Nidus Worms at once, so I could have them all popping up and screaming at once. And he turned his main into a
Sure, really freak him out.
yeah, exactly. And,
Well,
well,
give
he
him a
turned his-
glorious death.
turned his main into a planetary fortress. So I was like, oh poor kid or
Oh.
guy or whoever you are, your first game, I'm at least going to show you how awesome Zerg is. And I'm not going to like seriously pro roll you. I'm just going to use Lings until you die.
So you see, okay, all right. So you gave him a cinematic sending off.
Exactly.
Oh, you didn't like quintuple expand and then roll in there with ultras.
Yeah, and then told him to uninstall and leave. Yeah.
You mean like the multiple guys were telling us to do in Dota the other night?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my god. People
Again-
I wish I could find in real life.
But that's isn't that the frightening thing is we're playing with those people in StarCraft, but because it's one-on-one, no one throws around those kind of insults because you're either winning or you're losing. There's no one to blame.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. It's not. If it weren't for my teammates,
If it weren't for me and how stupid I am, I would have won that game.
right.
So what do you guys think of this? I mean, this is clearly changing the battlefield. So, to put kind of an image in your mind, there is going to be Zerg versus Zerg battles where the Roach Hydra clump is all clumped up and dying while infestors run around like crazy in the background because they can't be in bungled themselves, so they're running in the middle of battle and they're running over here.
I'm wondering in sort of small unit tactics like that, whether we'll actually see, like, let's say you have an infestor in the middle of a group of roaches, the roaches get fungled, and then the infestor is stuck there anyway. Whether or not he's taking damage, I mean, obviously he's gonna survive for longer, but I don't think that gives increased mobility, at least without really tight control, where
Yeah, well, you
that's
could-
deliberately avoided.
burrow and move onto the roaches?
Oh, that's true, yeah. But even that, I mean, that's a lot of extra actions to perform in a couple of minutes, right? Or a couple of seconds.
True, but I mean,
But that's cool. I mean,
can't
that's not a bad thing.
imagine-
Yeah,
I can't imagine it happening in a pro game where why the hell would an infestor be in the middle of a circle of roaches?
Sure, it would be in a different control group. So we're gonna
but sure.
see.
But let's say there's you're moving across the map and you've got like a ton of roaches and you've got your like sort of roach hydra with a bunch of infestors thing going and you're moving through a choke or something. There's easily situations where that's happened, right? Where you end up with infestors sort of mixed in with that kind of stuff, especially when they're trying to dart in to fungal other groups but still stay out of range of the hydras. I mean, you're frequently moving in and out of that range. Or, the more dangerous part is if they get stuck in front of a line of fungal roaches.
Okay, all right.
I don't know. It's just my
No,
speculation.
you did a good job explaining that. I mean, yes, this is very much game changing, and as we mentioned just briefly earlier, it's a huge buff to Protoss because we've got so many of their units here.
But it's an
are-
identifiable change, though, and there's kind of like they're psychic, so they can like use their mental shields to stop fungus from getting on them. Instead of something like, now fungal growth only affects mutas, or there has to be some sort of classifier for this to even make sense.
Right,
And
if it was
saying,
just random pick or choose, like this one can, but this one can't be affected, that would be
Exactly.
dumb.
I see the most likely scenario being that if they kind of like this, but it's not quite balanced, that they actually change the classification of certain units. They go, you know what? Maybe a warp prism is just mechanical and not actually psionic, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not even sure why a warp prism is psionic.
because it you don't go into the warp prism. You get transferred into the psionic energy beam thing, and you get carried around as data, and then you get restructured once you arrive there.
But isn't that how all of Protoss tech works? I mean, that's what gateways are doing in any powered zone.
Well, maybe if gateways were units, they'd be psionic.
I'm just saying, it's just tech. So a vehicle that is just a piece of tech should be
I don't know.
vehicle.
The better question is why mothership is psionic. That's an interesting one.
That is a much better question. That is odd. Again, it's a vehicle. It should whatever.
Is there anything else that affects psionic units aside from this, like in the game right now, that I'm just blatantly unaware of?
No, I don't believe the psionics have always been that
Well,
that
the
weird
interesting thing
caveat
too,
because they're like ghosts are like they seem, they are human. You would think that they would be susceptible to baneling damage like Marines are, but they're not because they're psionic.
right? And they're not, susceptible to. Sorry, they're not susceptible to like increased damage versus armor because they're not armored either. They're psionic.
Right.
Which is right. Okay, so what this is sort of this mid-range armor that's slightly tougher than the surrounding units, especially to stuff like that, which I guess is a deliberate thing on their part.
Yeah, Greyfire and Oathmaster in the chat room make a good point. Snipe does an extra 25 damage versus psionic.
Against psionic, I thought it was against biological, or did they change that because of it was just killing all the Zergs?
Yeah, I believe they changed it. Yes, it's a 25 base damage plus an additional 25 versus psionic.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So,
Well, nothing's being changed from that, so that's still the same.
well, the fact that a ghost was already the counter to an investor.
Can you
And
snipe
now-
a warp prism?
I don't think it. Well, yeah, why not? It's psionic. And
Right,
you can
but
snipe
I
air.
thought you could only use it on biological units.
no,
Snipes a single biological unit for 25 plus 25 versus psionic.
Right, and it does extra
Okay.
damage against psionic.
So yes, it is not a counter to warp prisms.
Well, I mean, fungal certainly isn't anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean that is of course assuming this even goes through.
Right, but I mean, I find it interesting because it really increases the harassment potential for Protoss in the late game.
Mhm.
I kind of like that. I don't know if that's wildly crazy, but I feel like in the late game that Protoss doesn't have nearly the sort of harassment opportunities that, let's say, as a very mobile Zerg or a Terran have.
Right. I mean, this doesn't change their harassment options against Terran at all. It stays the same.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but especially
But
against
versus Zerg,
where
yeah.
that's shut down almost entirely.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that does make it interesting. But
Yeah.
but mid game, like we were just talking, you either go Infestor or you go Muta. That can be so horrifying.
Right.
I mean,
Right. Yeah. The other interesting thing to me actually is sentries.
Yeah,
being able to-
to add that on top of what we just saw at the Blizzard World Finals, this sort of buff to a sentry seems frightening.
yes.
Yeah, but in so in PvZ late game, like you're not actually the amount of times I've seen sentries killed off with fungals deliberately, as opposed to just being mixed in with the army, is I can count it on one hand. I think the amount of pro games where I've seen that happen. The other thing is too, like in PvZ in late game, you start to restructure the Protoss army to the point where you're getting rid of most of your sentries. It's no longer a thing. It's not like you're zoning against what either ultras or oh god, my mind's blanking. Broodlords. It's not like you can zone against that, right? Against that hive tech. So it really doesn't matter how many sentries you have; they're just kind of dead weight. But I imagine in the sort of early mid game that's kind of a change. I don't know. Maybe you can just zone a little bit easier, then I don't know.
We're going to be seeing the repercussions of this over the next couple of weeks, and if they decide to go with it, the game is most certainly going to change. I mean, you're not going to be able to have instant detection for some of your, big offenders like ghosts. There's going to be a lot more nukes. We'll probably see a DT resurgence. Archons are now just going to be running through it like Ultralisk, but without taking any damage. Ultralisk already not affected by the fungal stop at any rate. And just all the other, the motherships, they're going to be giving their invisibility to everyone. You're going to be using your fungal now to throw and find the units underneath there rather than trying to grab the mothership and pull it out. And heck, moving on here, we're even talking about getting rid of Neural Parasite.
Yeah, entirely. There's just a few rather lengthy interviews. Chris Siggety on Forbes and Dustin Browder was interviewed by Team Liquid during BWC. So let's talk about some of the things that Chris Siggety said. We'll come back to that Neural Parasite thing here in a minute, Kyle. Yes. Continue, Ben.
All right, sorry. I just want to touch on what we were discussing previously before we move on to the next thing, which was all of this stuff is sort of incremental buff nerf kind of things that are happening. What really, really interests me in this entire thing is how it will change behavior. Because if you can do the same thing and it's just slightly weaker than before, then that's the same thing. But if it really seriously changes behavior, which most of these, not being affected by fungal, it's not really going to change it. But there's a few things mixed in here where I really think it'll change the way people think and change the way people play. And I'm really interested to see what happens because of that. Anyway, Chris Siggety talked about HOTS and esports. So what he was saying that they've got a bunch of new additions, some of which are a new training mode to wrap around multiplayer.
We haven't heard about this at all.
Nope. No, none whatsoever. And he didn't have a whole lot in the way of details.
Yeah, if we were to go with what we currently have, the trainer is, build 8 ghosts before the Ultralisk show up?
Oh, yeah, the life.
Something like that.
Yeah. But I can see a more in-depth version of that, maybe including some basic builds that are not just make 6 Marines, move on. That are more about efficiency and how to actually play, or that kind of thing. Because they've touched on this a little bit, but
sure, they'd have to be very early game instructional or large overarching tools. Otherwise, it's not going to mix with the meta as it changes, and the game is naturally going to be patched. And what could be more? We've all loaded up the campaign and been like, man, these things are great. Oh, that's because it didn't get patched.
That's right.
Yep.
What I find interesting is that he talked about it wrapping around the multiplayer. I wonder what that means.
Yeah, that makes me think that it's kind of a funnel.
Especially since it's a mode, right? Is this going to be a style of gameplay where it's sort of or maybe like a map? I'm speculating wildly here, but maybe something that is intended to aid people learning, especially when maybe they're playing with a coach or something like that. That would be very interesting to me. Where it gives the coach more tools to interact with, let's say, what the player is doing, for instance.
That's interesting.
That could be cool.
That could be really great for them. But right. Also, just teaching the game in general and having some sort of mode that says you should expand now is something really important. I look back on, my Brood War days, and I didn't know what expanding was, nor did I want to do it because it was a waste of time, and that base usually got attacked anyway.
Right. And we had best map ever.
Exactly. So by teaching people those things, not only are you, making them better at the game, it'll make them want to watch esports instead of going, whoa, these guys are weird. Look at all the weird stuff they're doing.
Why aren't they just 6-pulling and running at each other? I don't understand this.
Here's the question, though. Okay, just the question, should I expand now, yes or no? Right, is so massively complex and is really what separates the good players from the great players, right? Is the being able to take into account every single one of the different environmental factors that are affecting the game and making the judgment call based off that. So I don't think, I can see them introducing the basic concept of that, but it's very hard for it to go, oh, you should always expand now, because then it just becomes equally predictable gameplay, and it's not much better than, build 6 ghosts before the 4-minute mark or whatever.
Sure, you can hold people's hand through it, but yeah, there's no way you're going to say, you should attack right now. Blizzard says attack at the 15-minute mark. Like, that doesn't matter.
That's right.
It has no bearings.
Right.
Do a 150 mech push, 150 mech push, and move along.
Yeah. Another thing he mentioned that's similar, he said that they're going to have a new versus AI mode that plays at your skill level. It's something you're just going to select and then go.
That is fascinating.
So you basically, I guess, instead of having your easy, very easy, medium, hard, very hard, etc., it'll just be play at my skill level. I'm assuming you probably will need to place first so that they have like an MMR for you and stuff like that.
Sure.
That's a good question. Or, the other thing is, does it adapt dynamically as you play?
Oh, like
I
it
don't
starts going faster if you go fast, and like if you start eating chips, it slows down.
Yeah, but it'd be hard to get a win condition for it then. I mean, it'd be very hard for it to go, I beat you. You know what I mean? Because you screwed up. It's
Or if it was just like really giving, like it goes in and it only sees you have a couple of things. It's like, oh, I'll come back.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's linked to the MMR. What was I going to say? I was going to say something really profound and really important.
Of course, you were going to blow all our minds.
Of course,
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to blow all your mind. No, I doubt I'll blow anyone's mind. But I think in this next campaign, we're going to see, of course, the hero levels. We're going to see Kerrigan being a badass and, the usual awesome levels where you don't have to actually build a base. But I think some of the levels, and a greater majority than we saw in the Wings of Liberty campaign, will be more standard games. Start from nothing. Sure, you got Kerrigan there, but build a base and defeat the enemy.
You think so for the campaign?
I think so.
I disagree. I think
I do
we'll
too.
see. I think we'll see very little of that. I think they're going to make weirder and more crazy gameplay that they can. I'm sure we'll have a couple of basic ones
Well, let me ask you this,
like
Kyle.
that, but
Let me ask you this, Kyle. Is that what you want? For
I think it'd be really cool for a couple of levels. I'm not like saying the majority. I'm saying maybe 1 or 2 throughout the game, so that you can kind of.
I mean, we had 1 or 2 during Wings of Liberty.
right. In fact, like, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like, I relish those. Like, when I play through the campaign, I'm like, yes, one where I can just build stuff and then go kill the other guy. Not like I have to run around and I have one
Avoid
guy
fire.
and I have to blink them and like.
Yeah, avoid the fire. We know we're gonna have an avoid the frost one.
I'm sure.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, or lift up all my buildings and move along. That's just a pain in the ass.
Oh God, I hate that mission. I can't tell you how many times I replayed the Wings of Liberty mission. I'm just like, can I just skip this? I hate this level.
Oh yeah, what I was gonna say about the versus AI mode. Like I'm right now the AI is so predictable. If you guys have played against it, it's like if you play against very hard, he's gonna like rush you at like the 8-minute mark and come in and try and kill you. So you can blind counter it. Like it happens every single time. It's not really sophisticated. So I'd be very curious to see improvements in the enemy AI.
Yeah,
That makes it less, transparent as to what exactly is going on.
indeed. Talking a little bit about some of the things that Dustin Browder had to say, though, this harkens back to some of the investor talk we were talking about in Mothership. One of the first things that just kind of made me raise an eyebrow is he said that they're considering redesigning the Mothership so it won't be a serious unit used in professional esports play.
That's an interesting thing to say.
That immediately makes my brain just yell, then why is it in the multiplayer?
We really want this unit to be crap, but fun, is what I hear. And that's not a horrible thing to say.
We already have that. It's called the Carrier.
Well, here's the other question, right? I mean, except the carrier isn't fun. It's just crap.
I think they're fun. I love making like a 200 count or 200 food count army with nothing but carriers. Have you seen what that many interceptors on screen looks like?
Oh yeah, yeah, I have. And then you get a mothership that they're all cloaked, which really helps.
Yep. Doghouse systems, go get them. It'll run like butter.
It'll need 'em. What I think is interesting is right now it feels like the mothership is mandatory in late game PvZ. You don't not
Too
get
true.
it. you're stupid if you don't get it. Like, there's no every single tech path that any pro player will make if they're playing a really long game will eventually converge on Mothership.
Your dogs are very passionate about motherships.
so sorry.
They're just like, no, don't take it away. Don't take it away.
That's exactly how they feel. But
Well, and also
you know,
looking at the perspective that the mothership core should be a decision to get rid of, rather than a natural progression once you get to Fleet Beacon.
right.
In
Right.
hard
The thing is, well, I mean, look, everything boils down to Vortex, right? I mean, it's so powerful, and it's so good against Broodlords. It's unbelievably good against Broodlords, and it's a really cool mechanic too. And it plays like a really high risk game. However, without Neural, you know, if you take Neural out of the equation, which you're also talking about, you suddenly end up with an extremely powerful mothership that can just go in and like Vortex whatever and not have to worry about it. Right, because right now there's sort of this cat and mouse game that goes on between the infestors and the mothership, where they kind of move back and forth, and they're very, very careful about how they engage, and then eventually they vortex. Right, you know, either that or there's a neural that goes off and they vortex on the other guy's army, and it's a thing, but clearly they don't like that, you know, style of gameplay. Because even Dustin Browder said, you know, neuraling a mothership feels like a problem to him, or at least to what they're perceiving as to how the game should be played.
Yeah,
Certainly. Well, it's a very thrilling aspect for early audiences, and we loved it a year ago and even into this year entirely. But now people's careers are riding on the lines, and if it's a single misclick or a lucky infester that throws in a tournament, it is an issue.
Yeah, and it's always the same. It's always the same. You're not gonna have like it's not gonna happen very often where you're gonna see like, oh, he's got 30 immortals versus like 200 food versus versus an army of ultras or something. It doesn't happen. It's always Broodlord mothership, right?
Yeah.
Like I would love to see some different end game stuff happening. Mind you, this is for Heart of the Swarm, right? So we're gonna have some pretty different dynamics going on there.
right. This brings me back to my initial question, though. How do you guys feel about if they just left it in the game, but it's crap? Like, what is the point?
Whatever. Then it's dead weight, and it's at the end of a tech tree somewhere, and you don't have to worry about it.
It should just be removed.
Well, what's more important, right, is one of the notes he makes is that regarding the carrier, there's a couple of interesting changes that might happen. One might be interceptors being immune to fungal, and the second thing he says is that corruptors are a bigger problem versus carriers rather than infestors. And I agree completely. I mean, one of the main reasons two main reasons that carriers really, really suck, right? I mean, sorry, there's a whole lot of reasons that they really suck, but why they could be cool. Sorry, I keep thinking of new reasons why they're terrible. But one of the big ones is that it's almost impossible to get to late game PvZ without the other guy having built about 1 million corruptors just to deal with your Colossus. You're not going to end up in that scenario very often, right?
Right.
I mean, it's extremely unlikely, especially since they need to go there for Broodlord Tech anyway, which they're going to do because that's what Zerg does, is they go to Broodlord Tech. So they have about 1 million corruptors out and about, and that makes carriers that much less useful. The other thing being that you can kill them all off because they're so slow, and you can just get a couple of fungals off on all the interceptors, and it starts to cost massive amounts of money, and everything dies. There was actually a GSL game recently where like somebody went carrier tech, and it was very exciting, and then it just died. Like,
that happens literally every time someone goes carriers in the GSL.
I have never seen a successful carrier anything in the GSL, and every time it happens, I'm so excited, and I really, really hope it works, and then it never ever pans out.
Well, because it's a GSL, right? We're just like, oh my god, there's probably some crazy freaking Korean meta strategy that we're not aware of. I can't wait to see this, and then it just fails, and you're like, oh look, it's exactly what I thought would happen.
And here's the thing. In practice, that must kill nerds all the time, because otherwise they wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are all time-tested strategies. Even the wacky ones have been practiced to death, right? So somebody had a beat on that somewhere, and just in live games, every time it just collapses. By the way, I'm sure that there's a handful of games out there somewhere, probably in Code A, where somebody's done carriers, and it's worked out fine. But that's a different problem.
Yeah, don't save your emails. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to dwell on the mothership too much.
Well, I mean, it's a huge component in PvZ, right? I mean, taking that out, changing anything is tremendous. I definitely think that it could be redesigned for the better, and I think a lot of that will come with changes to Zerg ground units, for instance, making them more desirable as opposed to Broodlords. I think could dramatically change the dynamic. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I think they've already made interesting changes, but it's mostly on the side of the Mothership Core, the new unit. I find it to be a really intriguing unit, and I think they're doing interesting things with it. So why not just remove the Mothership entirely and rename the Mothership Core to just the Core or something?
Well, because, I mean, what the Mothership does right now in the late game is add a few abilities to the Mothership Core, right? I mean, it adds cloaking, which is something, right?
But it also removes, I believe, doesn't it? Remove its ability to turn to have a defensive.
Yeah, I know, but I mean that's super powerful when you have 6 lings in your base. It's terrible at late game when you have a 200 versus 200 army. I mean, who cares, right? It's one of those things that's like, oh, all right, whatever. But Vortex is the big one, right? I mean, that's a huge addition that comes with the Mothership, and that's the main reason you would get the Mothership. Is being able to control space like that and being able to, potentially kill all the other guys' Broodlords in one fell swoop.
Yeah. So, they're still talking about the projectile animation on fungal growth. Hopefully it just won't be as slow as last time.
Yeah.
Because they tried that once before and it did not go over well at all. Dustin Browder says he believes there's a cultural difference between countries that makes Korean Terrans and foreigner Terrans different. Really? What a prolific statement.
Well, which is an interesting one. I mean, if you actually think about it, what is the cultural difference? Is it the way that they play, or is it the way that they practice? Right? I mean, the fact that he addresses Terran specifically is kind of interesting.
Well, all the other races kind of embrace a sort of instant creativity that can happen, whereas Terran is extremely regimented.
Yeah,
you think?
I mean, I agree. There's a divide. I think there's a bigger divide in the skill difference in foreign Terran and Korean Terran than the other two races.
Interesting.
Or at least it's been showcased for longer. Because we did have the Terrans being successful in the GSL. So of course those Terrans who were being successful were chosen to be sent to our earlier MLGs this year, and now things have calmed down and got a little saner. It's hard to say the statement now, but certainly in the past.
Right.
I wonder if there was such a solid base of good Terrans to start off with that it becomes a very refined and sophisticated thing, kind of like that has been going on for so long now, especially considering their dominance in the early GSL, where it was really this sort of very high level of play going on, and it's just evolved further than maybe you've seen in other matchups. I could be wrong. I also feel like they have a lot more sort of diversity in their builds sometimes, not all the time, obviously, reactor Hellion openings against Zerg and that kind of thing, but it feels like they were the most developed race on launch.
Certainly on launch, yeah. No one would argue that they had more options at the disposal than anyone.
Right, and the real question is whether the Koreans took advantage of those options, which obviously they have. But what makes you say that it feels regimented? Is it just the builds you're saying, or?
Oh, I'm just saying the way it works, the way you select a building, the way you build additional production facilities and go back to that thing and build it. If you do not build a Marine, that is lost Marine, and that is lost build time. Whereas if you don't use your larva, it's just going to kind of pull up and you can use it later to an extent.
And energy with Chrono Boost as well.
Yeah, and to an extent, warp gates work like that. I mean,
yeah, you can, especially in the late game, you can kind of play warp gates, or actually you frequently see it in the early game too, where there's an extra warp gate built that doesn't get used but is there just in case something really just goes badly.
Right.
Yeah, it's an interesting point though, but I feel like tactically that instead of from an overall strategic point of view, tactically it feels like Terran has much more options how to engage an enemy army, let's say, or how to take advantage of the terrain, that kind of thing. It feels like there's a lot more opportunities for that to happen, that sort of creativity, rather than a strategic choice. You know what I mean?
Certainly. I mean, the mere fact that they have two different kinds of bases, one for defense and one for mining,
Right.
leads right into that.
Again, interesting decision making. But even if you think about just like, I can take this group of 6 Marines, and depending on how I place them and how I drop them and what I do with them, I can, get a lot of mileage out of them, more so than I feel like other races can for that similar kind of thing. Like a Zealot is just going to run in and attack, right? That's what it does.
With Langs as well.
Exactly. So, I mean, but if you pick a Marine, for instance, like if you drop 2 on the high ground and all the enemy Marines run over, or the enemy Zerglings run over there, and then you drop the rest on the low ground, like you start to create interesting dynamics that are happening in a very sort of micro level.
Like the Simpsons arcade game.
How?
What?
Because like Marge could pick up Homer and like use him as a vacuum, and then you guys never played that. It was great. We need more combinable characters. More hippogriffs.
Yes, I agree.
We just dipped into a very weird section of this show.
Yep.
Speaking of, somewhat weird, Browder also mentioned redesigning the 250mm strike cannon to give Thor's a different purpose. I would argue it just needs to be redesigned to where it's used ever.
Right, but I mean that's the idea, because the purpose it serves right now, it's not being used for.
Well, he says to give Thor's a different purpose. So is he meaning he wants to change them up completely to where they're not?
I would not be surprised if they're trying to generate a scenario where they can reintroduce the Warhound. That kind of thing. You know what I mean? In a different context.
Okay.
Oh, make the anti-mech unit the Thor.
Well,
that's already been discussed, and I believe dismissed by Blizzard.
No. But I'm talking about like reintroducing the Warhound in the role that the Thor currently fills. Like not in the same way that it was early on in the Hospital, where it was basically another Marauder, right? I mean that's functionally what it was. But introducing it in a way that the Thor becomes very specialized, and then the Warhound becomes much more specialized too. So you have a clear decision to make, instead of I'm going to build 2 Thors and just have them in my army because they're good against mutas, and they're decent against roaches, and they're decent against this, and like I can see them like narrowing the focus and making it more specific. So you have a more specific task that you can do with the Thor.
All right.
Am I crazy? I mean, the Thor feels
No.
like a very sort of generalized unit. Like, it's big, it's expensive, and it's decent against most stuff.
Well, I don't know. I mean, personally, it's like mutas, and that's like the only time I make Thors.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not...
Well, my point was they seem specialized to me in my head, but also I'm not a high-level player.
I see both sides of your argument, yes.
Right, but I mean, they do decent against some ground units. Like, they're not awful. Like, in certain scenarios, they can be pretty good against whatever, They're pretty decent at killing roaches, for instance. Like, mixed in with an army, they're not bad. But they're not used a whole lot either. So I'm just kind of curious. I don't know.
Yeah. Seeker missile not requiring an upgrade. Browder said that he doesn't believe this will change much, but it is something they're testing at the moment.
Like, they're gonna leave it that way, or they're not gonna make this change?
Talking about it, it's currently being tested, but he said, in his opinion, I personally don't think it's going to change much by removing the upgrade.
It's an interesting...
I disagree wholeheartedly.
I don't think it'll be anything like, oh my goodness, Terra now has an infestor equivalent, because ultimately, yes, you can throw down the little guns, and they do start shooting instantly. I mean, but that's so hard to call. I mean, to say that, to put that on the record, I'm impressed, Dustin, because I think things are going to change a lot, and I don't think they'll change for the better. Ultimately, things will calm down, but I'm real excited to see some turrets already.
Really?
Yeah, I want to see some turrets. Seeker missiles, cool situations. Let's do them. Kill the Broodlords.
Seeker missiles are amazing. They're like when I see Seeker missiles go off, I'm like, yes, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because I mean, it is potentially such a game changer, right? They have
the key word there though is potentially, dude. It's so slow.
I know, but the thing is, it's heavily dependent on, but like, okay, it does a couple of things. It controls space as well as doing a ton of damage, right? You can't, like, if you need the other guy, it's almost like a defensive nuke, right, on a much smaller scale. If you need the other guy to back up, right, you can control what he does. Either that or he's going to eat a ton of damage. So he can't cluster up and just kill all your stuff. So if he's good enough to run away from the secret missile, he's going to have to run away, which changes the dynamic of a given engagement entirely. The second thing is, if he doesn't run away, he takes a lot of damage, and when that happens, like, that's tremendous. Like, yeah. I'd like to see it more in games, and I think if it doesn't require the upgrade, which is expensive and it is long and it is late in the game, I think we'll see more of it, which I like.
I just don't think we'll see massing on the level that we've seen in Infestor because of the way the Infested Terran works. I mean, while it moves a little bit, but it's also kind of this instant army, whereas, I mean, if you've got 5 infestors, you can hold back at least 100 food army for a little bit. But if you just threw down a bunch of turrets, they'd laugh and roll it over.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Yeah. There's no question about that.
So will that
they do a lot of damage? But I don't think it's intended to be that. I mean, you can see how much they're nerfing the infestor. They don't want that scenario.
Now, the dark days I'm really afraid of is, of course, the gas that it costs. And Terrans are always looking for somewhere cool to put their gas because they're all going wild on Hellions. So there's going to be some dark days to come of Hellion Raven pushes.
Kyle's like this Zerg hermit living in a cave somewhere. And then the dark days came.
Get off my creep!
When the Raven no longer required an upgrade to the Hunter-Seeker missile.
And missiles fell from the sky, and those of us that ran track in high school survived.
Or just those of us who only went to Burger King once a week.
Right, which is about the speed that the thing travels at.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could outrun it on a scooter that had been recently charged.
I want to touch on one thing Chris Sigety actually discussed, which is kind of important to a lot of people who watch esports, which is that they're introducing a new UI thing, which is going to be very, very heavily customizable for spectators. So, without having to use complex overlays and a lot of production equipment, it seems like casters will now be able to control the overlays and like bits of information at a much higher level and be able to tweak their UI and that kind of thing
and all natively within StarCraft 2, which is
tremendous.
Yeah, the less bulk, the better.
Yeah, I agree.
Which immediately, I mean, if it works and it's good, I mean, there's a chance that we'll get this and be like, oh, this is crap, I'm going back to XSplit. But if it works, you immediately just, boom, everyone has a standard that they're working with, and everyone knows what the score is. So
I'd be very curious if they could introduce their own graphics.
I would assume that's what, because if you're running a tournament, that's what you want. You want to be able to put your sponsors up there. You want to be able to put your logo up there.
Exactly.
So if I can't imagine this being anything other than that.
Right.
So
that'd be cool.
More on that makes me really excited, especially as someone who does tournament graphics.
Yeah.
So stoked about this. Bring it on, Blizzard. So yeah, there's more stuff.
There's tons of stuff. There's so much stuff.
Nitpicky stuff. Yeah, we're not going to read a bullet list for you. Go check them out. There'll be a link in the show notes. So go over to thisweekinblizz.com and check it out, or just go directly to teamliquid.net or over to the Forbes site. Right.
There's so much other stuff. They're just talking about how there's changes planned for the Void Raid, the Phoenix, the Mutalisk, the literally everything. TVP balance.
I hope to put
TVP.
I think I'm going to add a third eyeball to all Marine units. It's all just this crazy pie in the sky, wishful thinking stuff, but it's very interesting.
Yep.
So go check it out. Real quick, got a lot of stuff coming up in esports. We got the GSL Codes Season 5 finals that are going to be played on American soil this next weekend in Las Vegas. It'll be taking place during IPL 5, actually. So we're going to have the quarterfinals and the finals there. And so we've got Hyun, Bogus, Ryung, and Sniper all moving on to Vegas to duke it out to see who will be crowned GSL champion.
Yeah, wow. And Sniper knocking out Lenok to take that spot.
I know, that's crazy.
That's insane. Lenok's been on such a streak lately, too. Yeah.
Who do you think is going to take it?
I'm kind of rooting for. I don't know, man. I'd like to see we're young, so it gives credit to my favorite person who he owned in a pretty epic TVT, actually.
MKP.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a really good
It
series.
was a phenomenal series, actually. I've never been so entertained watching MKP lose. I wouldn't mind seeing Bogus win either, because he's just been like he wasn't on my radar at all at the beginning of this season, and
I totally don't care about him.
I don't know.
I don't know if it's just the emotional attachment. Just
Yeah, I have zero emotional attachment to him, but he's, like I said, he came out of nowhere, and that's interesting to me, at least for me personally.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are like, I've been watching him in Code A for the last 3 years, even though Code A's only been around for a year and a half, and now he's amazing.
Yeah.
But
I want to see Hyun take it.
Hyun,
Yep. That's what where my money is at.
no more Zerg victors. Down with the Zerg Empire.
Yep. Well, we got 2 Terrans and 2 Zergs, so
Yep. No Protoss. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I didn't do too hot this round.
No, they did not. So, alas. And also, obviously, IPL 5 is happening this weekend as well, with multiple tournaments going on inside. Oh. Yeah, okay, Oathmaster reminded me that Bogus is a Kespil player. I forgot. How dare I?
Yep.
There goes me.
He's an elephant in the room.
Real quick, Protoss winning. Hero won DreamHack this past weekend, so you all got your dose of Protoss victory.
Cool. I totally did not watch that, but cool.
It was a terrible weekend, yeah. I was so excited for it, and then I was like, oh, crap, family stuff. And I saw very little of it personally.
well, and you know why you didn't hear anything? Because nothing bad happened. It went rather smoothless.
Smoothless.
Smoothly.
Smoothly. It's DreamHack. I expect it to. I expect it to be a paragon of production value and just the antithesis of BWC.
Yeah.
You know. And then we got Iron Squid Chapter 2 also starting up, but that's going to be going on for a while. If you're not familiar with that, there's going to be 32 players playing GSL-style double elimination tournament. The round of 32, the round of 16, and the quarterfinals are all played online, but the finals are offline in Paris, France. So Iron Squid's really, fairly fresh tournament. They do really good stuff.
Yep. But boy, could I care less about online tournaments.
True.
Like as a spectator, it's totally
it's hard to keep up on. With so much,
especially
other stuff going
when
on.
there's a lot of competing stuff, which is live. Like, I mean,
Right, that's always been my issue. My main issue with keeping up on NESL. I get jacked for finals when it comes to NASL, but like keeping up to one on a nightly basis is very.
And there's so much.
I
right?
personally find it very hard. Yeah.
But you have to sort of curate like what you watch. Like you can't absorb all of it. There's too much, which is great. It's a wonderful environment to be in, right?
Right.
But you just have to pick and choose.
Yeah. And then finally, WCG 2012 is also happening this weekend. It's got so much stuff going on. And WCG, I'm just like, oh, okay. I forgot you existed. But they are going down, and they have Marine King Prime, so I'll definitely be watching some games.
Yep, and taking place in China again.
Yeah.
Hopefully the production's better.
Hopefully
Now-
they're doing their own production instead of letting the China take care of
Well,
it.
and let alone what we just had for an event in China. Last year's WCG did not go so hotly.
No, it did not.
Rather scandalously, if I remember correctly.
What happened there? I forget.
Some of the money went missing. The prize money.
Oh, that's fun.
No, just a little.
Oh, minor
oversight.
details.
Minor
It's
details.
like
exactly.
25,000 or something.
How is that all?
Nah, that's it.
Jesus.
That's all. But hey, they're sponsored by Samsung. It looks like a pretty. It looks legit, so hopefully it goes off well. Best of luck to them.
There's such a big push to involve China in a lot of this stuff. I think it's such a giant potential market for all these things. I wonder if that's a big conscious decision, or that's just the way it ends up panning out.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, that's unfathomable that they would just be like, we're China, why not? Clearly, they're coming into their own. They've got money to spend now. Let's give them some games.
They've got a
Well,
map
especially
on the
with
wall.
BWC, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you think it's just darts and a map?
Yeah,
on the wall?
yeah. It's like, where'd the spaghetti land? Okay, it's on China. All right, we're having it there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have
Bhutan. How about that?
do they do TV production? Yes. Is it good? I don't know. I didn't watch it. Doesn't matter. Have them do it.
Yeah.
I think that's
Alright.
how it went down. So, anyways, that wraps it up. That wraps up the news for this week. There is no Diablo 3 news we're talking about whatsoever. But we do have emails. This comes to us
Yay.
from thisweekinblizz@gmail.com. Send in your emails if you want them read on the show and responded to. Jim D. Hunt writes in, and he says, I started listening to the shows a few months ago after hearing about you on the Frog Pants Network. Woo! Big thanks to Scott Johnson. After hearing about the BWC live stream, I decided to check it out and enjoyed it. I wanted to watch some additional StarCraft 2 tournaments, both archived and as time allows live. However, I don't know where to start. What are some of the good upcoming tournaments to keep an eye out for, and where would be a good place to start watching some of the better tournament matches of the past? I have heard a few different ones mentioned on the show. Thanks for any guidance you can provide. Great shows, both Twib and StarCast. Keep up the good work. Well, we just talked about a few. I will definitely be watching the GSL Finals and IPL 5 this weekend. Like we said, Iron Squid will be going on for over the course of some time. So if you're looking for something that maybe, if you're trying to keep up with it as it goes and want it in smaller digestible chunks, that's probably more your style. So would GSL when it's in its regular, live season. We're coming to the end of
Yeah, but
season 5.
even the finals are more than worth watching. That's a great introduction, especially considering how high GSL's production is. Like how their production and their style of just even the VODs. Like I never watched GSL live.
No,
like,
God,
I
no.
always watch the VODs. So and it's great for that. You know what I mean? It's very consumable in bite-sized chunks, and their production quality is par none like the best for stuff that consistently happens.
Yeah.
And it's great.
If you want to watch the better tournament matches of the past, to quote you, Jim D. Hunt, gomtv.net, gomtv.net is the best place to go.
Yeah, mind you will have to pay for a subscription to do it. I mean, there's no way around it. You can pay for a specific season, or you can pay for like a yearly pass and that kind of thing, which is, in my opinion, well worth it. Frequently, you can see like the first game of a series for free, which is kind of nice.
I think you can always do that. And also, I believe last year's, which we're talking like 2011, I believe are available for free. Granted, the meta is so out of whack that it's not going to.
I know, but
much.
some of them are still fun to watch.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, if you're just getting in and that doesn't matter to you, you should go do it because it's free. So check it out.
Well, I'm glad we covered all this too, because very often you and I on StarCast, Garrett, say, nope, GSL, that's it. The other events that come and go, check the finals, they're awesome. But we also forget that a lot of people don't have credit cards. They may still be in school. They may be trying to avoid that money. So actually, this IPL is going to have the GSL, and the GSL, when live, is free to watch. And since it'll be live here in America, it's free to watch.
Yep, and you don't need to stay up till like 5 in the morning to watch it.
Yep, that's tremendous. But that'll be the one to keep an eye out for, because it's going to be really good. You know what I mean? There's no question about it. It's rare that you have one that really falls flat, and even if they're completely one-sided, they're usually pretty exciting. It's very interesting because I recently watched some games of something, I don't remember what, but they didn't have any music. And it's interesting how, even as cheesy and goofy as a lot of GSL's music choices are, how much that changes the atmosphere and really gets you excited for something. Because if you take that out of the equation completely, it's like, oh god,
I could really go for some terrible butt rock right now.
Yeah, but it has such a big emotional impact. You care so much less about whatever's going on when that doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
I agree entirely, yeah.
It's interesting how much that affected my perception of the games, for instance. Right? I mean,
Right.
They hyped it up and made it something important. I mean, the casters did this too. I mean, that's another great reason to watch the GSL is Artosis and Tasteless. They're just really have honed their craft, and I've never seen a duo work better together.
Agreed.
I mean, there's plenty of amazing casters out there, but I think they have it down pat.
Yeah.
And they do a great job about making you care about games that I normally could care less about.
Yeah. That's a good point. Another really good one, for free is NASL when it's live. I mean, they almost always have something on It's very well produced. They have some phenomenal casters, some phenomenal games. So you can just go to nasl.tv, and usually it's live, or during the day they'll replay the previous night's games. They'll rebroadcast it for free. I'll just throw that on during my lunch at work if there's nothing else on, and it's great. It's such a good production. But I also I like following tournaments to a T, and I from a tournament like rule standpoint, I find NASL one of the hardest ones to follow.
Yeah.
But if I just want to see some games, they're phenomenal. Absolutely great. So now, just be noted, Jim D. Hunt, we are at the end of the year, and this is when everything comes to an end. Like, we're at the end of the GSL, we're at the end of the IPL, we're at the end of the NASL, and there'll be a break, and then everything will kind of kick back up and restart.
That's okay. I mean, like, the GSL breaks are like 2 weeks at most.
Yeah. Well, I think their winter one is the longest, isn't it?
I think they just took the longest break that they'd ever taken.
No way. It was like
No.
2 weeks. You're lying through your teeth.
No, not the most recent one, but the one before.
Really?
I want to say.
I still
Yeah,
think it
for
was
some reason. I thought Kodas was really far apart for some reason.
Gotcha. If only we had
I could be wrong.
if only we had these
vaguely have a memory of that.
internet-operated devices that we were sitting in front of where we could look up GSL schedules. So, yeah, there's that. So go check it out. GoMTV.net, definitely my favorite. That's the GSL. And NASL is another great one to just like kick on and watch. And I love, for marathon style, I love MLG. But there won't be a new one of those for a while.
Yeah, they can be fun.
Yeah, I gotta wait till 2013.
Yeah. Lots of panning crowd shots of people holding signs.
Yeah, and you might see a StarCast sign. Or, hey, if you go to one, make a This Week in Blizz sign.
That's right.
So, the second email for today comes to us from Sparwa, who says, I enjoyed your discussion about the Diablo 3 expansion, and I have been thinking about what I want to see in the next installment. A new location is a must, and the most interesting place on the map that we haven't explored, is the Scovos Isle area. I imagine Diablo falls from heaven to the ocean near the isles, and strange Lovecraftian creatures start appearing on the shore. Have you ever seen a lanternfish? If the Lord of Terror didn't create that, I don't know who did. From there, we can go to deep caverns and find a fissure into hell. Those seem to pop up everywhere. The main antagonist can still be Diablo in some form or fashion. We have to destroy the Black Soulstone and save Leah's soul, like we promised in the game. Imperius is a jerk, but I didn't get an evil vibe from him. You obviously did not watch the animated short that they put out just before Diablo, because I got a major evil vibe from Imperius. He said, cut the guy some slack. He was under a lot of pressure with all the existence of going on in hell. But he was a jerk to Tyrael, and Tyrael's awesome. So Imperius is obviously evil. And he said, finally, I agree with Ben on getting a new class instead of recycling an old one. Even better, just give new skill sets to all the existing classes so we can have 5 new classes at half the development. Tried to keep it short. Signed, Sparra. Oh, he also said if Diablo news stays dry, keep up the lore talk. We Diablo fans love that. Well, it is a news show, so we're not just going to sit here and like, story time with Ben and his Google Foo. Well, he talks about Diablo lore.
That's right.
As long as you, I don't know, if you can keep up a Deckard Cain voice, I might not be 100% opposed to that.
Stay a while and listen. Click on the link I sent you guys.
Oh, certainly.
Because this is some artwork. I had a vague memory of this and wondering why it wasn't in the game. And it turns out that I believe that this was actually some Diablo 3 concept artwork of Scovos Island. Of Scovos Isle. And it was
You are correct, sir.
cut from the game. Or it was never developed in the game. Bashiok at one point cleared all doubts regarding its name and absence of the game. Apparently it's not present in the game, but it was made just to show off how much work and dedication the new team is putting into fleshing out the game world. You don't make a piece of artwork like this to show off how good you are at fleshing out a game world and then not having anything related to it. So this was clearly something that was considered at one point. And then trashed at a later date because it didn't fit with whatever they were doing. But I could see that being fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to run around there.
Agreed.
And obviously the listeners can't see this, but it's like
It is quite visual.
it's a mixture between like sort of a Southeast Asian island covered in lush tropical jungle and coral reefs and sort of Greek architecture like city on it. It looks very, very interesting, and I would love that to be an environment that we could run around in.
And Sparwall got me all excited bringing up Cthulhu monsters. Ooh, terrific.
You haven't already had your fill of that in
Speaking
in
of
Warcraft?
which, this past weekend I watched Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, finally!
Nice.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Did you make Abby sit through it?
No.
Oh, okay. Did she like walk in and just like, oh no, thank you. I am
She
out.
was like, that's bloody. It was the scene where like all the monsters had run out of the elevator and killed all the guys, and literally the entire room is covered in blood.
Did you like rent the DVD because the special features are amazing?
No.
They're so great. Yeah, that's
I also watched Prometheus and was decidedly disappointed.
really I love that movie. I really
It's
enjoyed
an
that.
exceptionally pretty movie. But I think it was Adam Savage from the Mythbusters who said this will ruin the movie for you if it wasn't already ruined. Why did anybody do anything in that movie?
I agree with that. Like,
For science.
There is literally no character motivations that make any sense whatsoever. Like, none of it makes sense. It's a super pretty movie, and there's scary moments and there's gross moments, and it does all that stuff exceptionally well, but the characters make no sense whatsoever.
You need to turn your brain off.
Why? Why should I do that?
No.
With a movie like that, where like if you watch something like Alien, where all the character motivations are really crystal clear
I'm
and
not
well acted, I mean, I don't see how that's an argument.
That wasn't my point. But I'm just saying I enjoyed it at face value because of all the things you said. It is entertaining as all hell. But if you try and think about the plot, yeah, it falls apart completely.
There's so many plot holes that don't make any sense.
The entire
like
movie. I'm
so
agreeing with
many
you.
plot holes that don't make any sense. Like how did somebody not catch this? Like how was this not caught in the script? It literally makes no sense in parts where you go, what? Why? What? Huh?
Have you ever talked to anyone that has ever worked on any movie ever?
Yeah, I know.
It's very easy for this to happen in Hollywood.
Yeah, no,
Very easy.
the expectation was very, very high for Ridley Scott's return to sci-fi, but that was just a disaster.
Very much let down.
But I love the production design of everything was fantastic.
Yep, gorgeous
Spacesuits
movie.
are
It is
amazing.
worth seeing just for the eye candy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the plot makes zero sense. Sorry, we'll talk more about this later. I don't mean to hijack the show.
It's okay. We're at the end. We're at the end. It's a light episode. We're allowed to get off topic, but that does bring us to the end of this week's show. So thanks for listening to us rant about bad movies or great movies. Anyways. No new iTunes reviews this week. If you are a podcast listener and you have not left us an iTunes review, please go do so. We really appreciate it. It helps out the show a ton. This Week in Blizz is a production of amove.tv. You can see more about This Week in Blizz over at thisweekinblizz.com. You can email the show at thisweekinblizz@gmail.com, and you can catch us live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/amovetv. You can follow us on Twitter at This Week in Blizz. You can follow myself at Garrett Art. You can follow Kyle at Kyle Ferguson. You can follow Ben. Holy shit on a shingle. Hell has frozen over. And Diablo's rather cold. Ben has a Twitter. It is at Pixel Garbage. So go follow him there. Not Pixel Junk. That's something completely different. You can join us. You can join us. You can join us in WoW on over at versustheworldguild.com. That's vstheworldguild.com. That's our Alliance Lightbringer US server guild. We are having a blast. Just not necessarily progressing in my own personal raid too fast. But hey, guild is phenomenal. The people in it even better. And go check it out. You can find Kyle and I both over on StarCast if you want more StarCraft news and chatter in your week. No guest this week. But oh god, where is my guest list? I forgot, Kyle. Where is it?
The next week.
It is the next week. So not this week, but next week we're going to have... Oh god, where is it? Seriously. Jason Lake, the owner of Team Complexity and the host of the Executives podcast, which I'm a huge fan of. So really looking forward to sitting down and talking with him. And then finally, Kyle, where can people find you on the latest edition to amove.tv?
You can find me at Biggest Fan Podcast, where we followed the Feathers Drive You Mad this week due to holiday, due to my being sick 2 weeks ago. Still James Bond. Won't go into it too much. Check it out. That is 7 o'clock Eastern on A-Move TV.
Yeah, it'll be streamed live, your first live show.
Well, I mean, I've had plenty of live shows, but first live
For
biggest
fan, right.
And I'm so upset because I've got all the equipment here to stream like RGB cables, but I don't have GoldenEye anymore. I lost it somewhere. I have my N64 and I can't play it. I was going to stream that at the beginning. I mean, I could play, I don't know, like Battle for Naboo. I don't know why I still have that.
Oh God, that was a terrible. Of all of the Star Wars games that came out for the 64, that might be the worst one.
I've got Pilot Wings if anyone wants to see that baby roll.
Random thought, since we're off topic already, I played a 4-person multiplayer match of GoldenEye on Thanksgiving.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was about to say, Kyle, that's nothing that can't be remedied with a quick trip to eBay. So, I mean...
Yeah, you can get an unboxed copy for dirt cheap. But yeah, I got my ass kicked. I don't know how I ever played a shooter without a second analog stick.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
And the N64 controller is truly the worst controller ever created by man.
Unless you love your knuckles rubbing together. I mean, that's good too.
Unless you have 3 hands, I don't know what the hell they were thinking.
It's truly a terrible piece of industrial design.
It really, really is. Enjoy your triple bananas, everyone. And please go check out our sponsors who do not endorse bad controller design. DoghouseSystems.com and tweakedaudio.com. That's TWEAKED audio.com. Our code is TWIB. That's TWIB. That gets you double memory on your next Doghouse gaming rig. And that same code will get you 30% off and free shipping on your entire order from tweakedaudio.com. They support us, so please go support them. We really appreciate it. Doghouse has been helping me out so much, as they do every Christmas. I'm looking for gifts. I'm looking for tech gifts. And I'm like, hey, this person in my life is looking to upgrade. We're not going to buy a Doghouse, but what would you recommend? And they're like, well, you're not giving us money, but we'll help you anyway because we're awesome. And I have a long, sad history of constantly effing up my machine. So they are so wonderful about helping me fix it. So go check it out because their support and the computers are par none. StockHouseSystems.com. We thank them for their support. We will see you guys next week with episode 35 of This Week in Blizz.
Take care.
Later.